ain't taking notes from nobody.
Your superstars have off games.
Follow us on social media at Celtics Talk Weekly. Woof, man, oh man, do we have a lot to get into, guys. Welcome back in to another episode of the Celtics Talk Weekly. I am your host, Rob Ate, and I'm with my two co-hosts, Justin Lowe and Ian Angelo, and we are super excited to bring you guys yet another episode of the Celtics Talk Weekly. We are entering, Justin, our third year covering the Boston Celtics now. Technically second full season, but the third calendar year in which we will be discussing the Celtics. Pretty crazy to think about. Want to thank you guys for all the support. As always, the growth has been amazing. Also, before I get started real quick, go follow us on social media. Takes 2 seconds, pause the podcast, go give us a follow if you're not already following us. Come right back here, unpause it, and continue to listen in on a great episode that we have in store. Guys, we got some fun. We got some fun ahead of us. I kind of think it's fun because it gives us something to talk about. Most other Celtics fans aren't going to be too excited and happy to hear about the recent news, but obviously this media day was a little bit different than last year's, right? Last year's was kind of happy, the good vibes all around for the Celtics. You had Schroeder in his new uniform, Richardson, Horford was back in town. Obviously, we know how Schroeder and Jay Rich turned out, but you got JB with the braids. The vibes are all great. We got Ime, the first year head coach, right? Only year head coach for the Boston Celtics, but it felt good. It felt refreshing. Fast forward a year, the Celtics make it to the finals. You're thinking next media day is going to be even better. Malcolm Brogdon's in town. Well, guess what? You were wrong. The Celtics obviously, it was not fun. It was not fun at all. We're going to get into, as to why, but we're going to hold off a little bit on the Ime Udoka news, right? We're going to hold off. Let's jump into some other news, right? Robert Williams. Obviously, Justin, Ian, and Seamus addressed this live right as the news kind of broke. They talked about it. I want to kind of go over it because new news has surfaced of how long this injury is actually going to sideline him for. First reported was 4 to 6 weeks, which right around puts him at 10 games of regular season play he would miss. Obviously, because you have the grace period right around a month before the first regular season starts, you thought, all right, this isn't that bad. You might have to find a backup center. You might not. You could probably run with Grant and Al running the 5. Gets the surgery, successful surgery, which is great there. But the new timetable puts him at 8 to 12 weeks, guys, which is 30 to 40 games, which could even extend a little bit further. Puts us into December and January. Obviously, our big man depth chart is already thin with Robert Williams in the lineup. Without Robert Williams in the lineup, we got Horford, Cornette, and Noah Vonleh. Obviously, I believe we have, I don't know how to say his name, but we have another guy that we signed from the Summer League, I believe.
Mafundu Kabengele.
Yeah,
Kabengele.
Mafundu Kabengele. So, Justin, where do the Celtics go from here in that aspect of big man? Do we roll with Horford and Grant? Do we sign someone that's serviceable for the first half of the season? Do we make a big name signing, maybe bring in Dwight Howard or DeMarcus Cousins? Or do we kind of trust our roster and how it's constructed as is for the first half of the season?
I think if the Celtics were to go out and get a guy like LaMarcus Aldridge, Carmelo Anthony, DeMarcus Cousins, Dwight Howard, I think that already would have happened. I think the Celtics are going to roll with what they have. I think they trust. They have a lot of trust in what they have. They're comfortable with what they have. Obviously, Horford going to be 36, 37 years old. He's another year older. He could still play some. He's still got a lot left in his tank. He showed us last year during that finals run. Grant Williams, he can play a small ball 5. I think, what's interesting about the NBA now is it's really a positionless game. Like, Jason Tatum is 6'10". He could play the 2 guard. He could play the 3 guard. He could play the 5 if we really want to throw him out there at the 5. So I think Boston is dead set on Horford, Grant Williams. I think they're really excited about this Kabengele guy. Luke Cornette, obviously, Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens has a lot of trust in Luke Cornette. Obviously, he's not the number one option for a backup center. But obviously, within the organization, there's trust with Luke Cornette. There's excitement around him and how he's building his game. So I think we're just going to ride with what we have. And I do think the advantage of going out and finding a guy like DeMarcus Cousins, Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard is the fact that those guys are all eligible for a veteran minimum, which is not too much money. It's pretty cheap. If the Celtics want to go out and get one of those guys, they're going to go and do that, and it's not going to be so hard to release them. It's not going to be, such a big price to pay. But I think they're ready. I think they're ready to roll with Grant and Al Horford, and maybe even Luke Cornett.
Yeah. So, like, Ian, when you think of the Celtics' current roster and you think of another gap, you think a small forward. But today we kind of got some promising news, right? Jay Crowder entering the trade market. He's officially going to be traded. As to where, that will be decided later. Teams such as the Celtics, in the Heat, and I believe two other teams,
Dallas and Memphis.
Dallas and Memphis, yes, were in the talks of potentially being a landing spot. Would you like to see Jay Crowder back in green? I mean, personally, I'd love it. What are you thinking here? Does Jay come back? Do the Celtics make probably for another maybe first round pick dump for a guy like Jay Crowder?
Of course, I would love Jay Crowder back, man. I loved Jay Crowder when he was in Boston. I was a little sad when he left because he was part of the Kyrie trade. But honestly, I mean, Jay Crowder is an addition to this team that could be pretty important. I mean, we lost a guy that in Danilo Gallinari that was supposed to be our, off the bench guy that could potentially, just put up points and kind of be more of like a corner three shooter, but also be able to create his own shot. I feel like Jay Crowder could easily be in that role. It's going to be crazy when you have Jay Crowder and Grant Williams coming off the bench. That's going to be a crazy forward tandem coming out of there. So honestly, I would love the idea of Jay Crowder coming back. Sometimes he's inconsistent with his shot, but you can't deny how good on defense that Jay Crowder is. So if the Celtics did end up trading back for Jay Crowder, I would not be disappointed. I would absolutely love to have the boss man back.
I love it. He fits everything that this team's about: 3-and-D, hustle, heart, intensity. I think Jay would fit great into that backup 3-4 slot. I think he allows us to go for a bigger yet smaller starting lineup, or not starting lineup, but a lineup in terms of you could run Crowder and Grant in the same lineup and be small but big at the same time. Those are two probably 6'6", 6'7", big bodies that can go defend positions 1-5, which I think is really important. If you can have that kind of another PJ Tucker like player, can also knock down the three ball super well. His shot selection in his time in Boston was questionable, but we go 82 games a year with seeing some like Marcus Smart type shots, and I'm all for Jay Crowder to come back. I think it would really add some depth if you can do it without trading a first round pick. I'd love it. If you have to give one up, I would maybe reconsider it. But I'd love that. But guys, it's time. It's time. We're gonna have to do it. We're gonna have to talk about Ime Udoka. Now, before we get started talking about this, obviously there's so many different opinions, so many different. I put together a timetable as to all of the news and when it's been reported. So I'm gonna go through. I want you guys to listen to this. I'm gonna get to a point once I'm done with this, but something's off with this story. So here we go. So the first thing that happened, right? First reported, Ime Udoka. It gets leaked that he had a consensual relationship with one of the Celtics staff employees. Reports then come out that Ime is facing a 1-year suspension. The first report was that it was a long suspension. People didn't really know how long. They thought maybe 40 games, 20 games when they said that. Ime then comes out and says he apologizes for letting the people down and will await the sanctions that will be placed on him. This is all on the same day. 24 hours go by, no news from the Boston Celtics at all. You don't hear any statements from them. You don't know what Ime actually did. You don't know anything. You don't know who it was with. Then the suspension finally gets announced by the Boston Celtics in a very brief statement that they posted online. This explanation does not include what he did. It will say that he will be considered in further dates. Next, Brad and Wick state they have found out about the issues in July after they had investigators look into this issue. This is during their press release, which was the following day. So they're thinking they found out 2 months ago. All right, this gets, now it's getting a little bit weirder. Then reports break of unconsensual comments that were made. Well, let me ask you this question. What can you say to get you suspended for the entire season in this instance? You got to think, can you really say something in a relationship type conversation that can get you suspended for the entire year? There probably is some stuff, right? You don't really know what. Then it was reported that the Celtics player had actually informed management of this relationship. So you're thinking to yourself, well, so someone in-house who was personally fond of Udoka snitched. You're thinking, all right, well, who is this player? Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, who you don't know. And then the girl that Ime Udoka had the affair with's husband finds out about the relationship via Ring door cam, which is actually quite funny.
Oh my!
So you think, so she's definitely talking to Ime on the phone about people finding out. So now let me ask you this. If there were unconsensual comments being made, why would the female be in contact with Ime Udoka having a conversation in which the guy could hear on the ring? That's my question for you. Then to finish this thing off, Celtics players go out into media day and have confirmed they don't know anything. They know just as much as we do. Jason Tatum found out via Twitter. Yet, side note, former NBA players and ESPN members have come forward and claimed they know the truth and cannot support what Ime Udoka did. Doesn't this all kind of seem off? It doesn't seem
right. And I think every report, there's two sides to every report. Like, one report comes out saying Udoka and his fiance Nia Long split way before this happened. Another one comes out, no, they just bought a house and moved to Boston 10 days ago. Another says this was consensual. Another says, no, wait, this could be a form of sexual harassment and there could be other penalties he's facing. Every report that has come out, I think not only the Celtics have done a poor job, but I think the media in general. I think Woj and Shams are very, very vague with their tweets and their reports. I think this was handled poorly all around. I think the fans didn't know how to, all they could deal with was speculations. I didn't think throwing in other women's names and faces, I didn't think that was right. But the speculations are going to happen, and we can't control that. Everybody's going to speculate when you're given these vague responses by both the media and by both the organization. Media day today, I got to be honest with you, it was not great. I watched every single interview, and I guess, with the interviews with Mark D'Amico, the players seemed excited, but also it's media day. Who doesn't have smiles during media day? But the players seem just as confused as we are, us three here, and we have no affiliation with the Boston Celtics. We don't have any inside sources like the players might. I mean, this is a total, utter disaster, and it's an embarrassment. And, there's no taking sides because both sides are pretty wrong. Like, this was a poor handled situation, and Udoka had himself in a phenomenal position. He was engaged to a beautiful actress model. He was head coaching and just taken the Boston Celtics, the most storied franchise in basketball, arguably the most storied franchise in all of sports, to the NBA Finals. And he threw it all out the door with this horrible, horrible decision. And this really, you could tell this has taken a huge toll on the Celtics organization.
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah, I agree. And so you guys, it was you guys and Seamus had an emergency podcast episode when this first kind of came out. And sadly, I wasn't able to be on that episode. But I think my whole opinion on this is kind of similar to what Justin said. The whole handling of the situation has just been terrible. The fact that the first thing you ever hear is a tweet from Woj at like 10 o'clock at night on like a Friday. And it just says, he's facing disciplinary action from the Boston Celtics organization. You don't know what it's about. You don't know, anything else. It was probably the most vaguest tweet of all time to a somewhat serious situation with a team that just made the NBA Finals and their head coach. So,
Right.
and then, the Shams report saying that it was a consensual relationship came out, and that came out at like 1 a.m. where, again, it's still kind of all up in the air. There's all of the speculation going on. And, it feels like TMZ is the most reliable source in this situation because they're the only one that put out any legitimate information on anything. So I feel like overall, Shams and Woj didn't cover this very well at all. And the Boston Celtics didn't do much better because my kind of question was, okay, so you see this news break, and it comes out that you've known about this since July. Why did it take you till 8 p.m. the next day to figure out, to release a statement about it?
Yeah.
You could have released something that morning. You didn't have to say anything. You could have just said anything, and it would have just put, a lot of people at ease, especially Celtics fans at ease. And I don't know, this entire situation, it could be blown out of proportion, and it could be serious because, you have Richard Jefferson tweeting, when you guys finally figure out what it's about, you're not gonna like it. And then you had Matt Barnes, who went on his tirade and then had to apologize and, come out. So whatever they know is something completely different than we know. And not only that, the Celtics players are just as tired of answering these questions as, we are. Because if you looked at, let's look at Jaylen Brown's interview, for example. They asked him the same question at least 5 or 6 times about Ime Udoka. Right. And all he had to say was, we know just as much as you guys do, so I can't really talk about that. So it's one of those things where not only did ESPN and all the coverage do a terrible job, the Celtics as an organization could have told their players before. Well, when they first figured it out, when they were first doing an investigation, they could have just said anything to the players, and the players didn't have to, they didn't have to speak to the media about it, but they could have at least said, oh, this is just something being handled in-house.
Well, it's weird too because Brad came out during the presser and said the players have been informed. The players were informed.
Yeah,
we talked to the players. So you're sitting here and you're thinking to yourself, their head coach has just been suspended for an entire year for a consensual yet unconsensual relationship. We don't know if it was consensual or not. These guys found out via Twitter. Right, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who are the cornerstones of Ime Udoka or not. If you got those two, you got a good chance at winning the finals. The cornerstone of your franchise, and you let them find out via Twitter. You should have contacted those two when you first, when you first got this claim. You should have said, "Listen, here's the deal. We don't know much about the situation, but Ime has had a relationship in house. We're investigating it. Please don't tell people. Don't let this leak. We thought we'd inform you," right? That's that. And if there's some lawyers in here talking about how the Celtics they shouldn't be saying anything or they aren't allowed to say anything yet, then you got to sit these players down before media day and tell them, listen, if you are asked a question about the coach, just say, I can't answer that. Or, we're not really focused on that right now. We're focused on, that's what should have been done because you have Marcus Smart out here saying nobody died, and quote, nobody died. I still love Ime as a person. He led us to the finals. It's just something unfortunate that has happened to him, victimizing Ime Udoka. Yet, if he's suspended for a year, shouldn't Ime, he's not the victim if that's the case. If there is an unconsensual relationship happening or something of that nature, to get him suspended for a year. So now you have your own players putting out conflicting stories. If Ime really did do something wrong, then Smart just came out here and said he loves Ime as a person, that he's a good guy, when in reality, it's just what are you doing, Brad? You're just letting this turn into a headless chicken running around, and it really has been handled so poorly. You got guys saying that it's just so bad. It was just such a mess, and no one knew what they were talking about. The fact that they were not told just to ask reporters to please ask any other questions. You will find out as soon as we like. It just was really, really bad. It was just a bad look for the Celtics.
Yeah, and that was another thing about media day today. It just felt awkward. Like no one really you could tell there was an elephant in the room, and everyone knew they were going to get asked these questions, but the players, it just felt awkward. Like I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, literally 5 days ago, or however long it was ago, Ime Udoka was your head coach, and now it's media day, and Joe Mazzulla is now your head coach, and Ime Udoka is suspended for a year. So I don't blame them for not answering the questions and kind of having it be somewhat of an awkward kind of situation, because they know about as much as we do, from them at least. So I don't know. It's an awkward situation for us to talk about, and obviously we're just three people on a podcast. Imagine having to actually be a player and talk about the situation to a bunch of reporters. So
yeah,
I don't blame them for the awkwardness of the media day this year, and I don't know. We're just gonna have to see what happens.
I can honestly tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed watching Luke Cornett talk. If anybody didn't see that interview, they should.
I did.
I don't think he's aware of the Ime Udoka situation going on, because he's got a bunch of interesting
he doesn't have
stuff
social
going on.
media.
He doesn't. No.
So he wouldn't even.
No, he was talking about his nickname and everything.
And he's like, "Hey, where's Ime?"
I didn't hear at one point say that they got to start.
Media day.
It didn't at one point there. He started joking about how they have to start running the offense through him with Rob out or something like that. It was.
Yeah, and he was talking about how there was this one clip of him that got leaked of him doing a workout, and he did a nasty crossover, and he's like, "Yeah, they call me when they do player comparisons, my player comparison is Allen Iverson." I was like, dude, where do you come up with this? He's hilarious. I love that. But just other than that, seriously, this was a mess. And the players, I think Smart also said Smart also said it's been hell for us these past few days, and we did know this, and that's the unfortunate thing, Rob, is the fact that we knew that, and this is how media day, this was the start of our season. This was the first day of the season, and it's gonna be, we're gonna get to really see how much leaders Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are, because let's see if this could affect. They say, oh, we can't let this affect us on the court. We still have a job to do. We still have to go play basketball. Okay, well, let's see that. Go out, and let's watch you play some basketball, because we still have a team to root for. We still have a lot of talent on this team, and quite frankly, I'm ready to turn the page.
So let's I'm over it. And listen, as much as it sucks, here's the thing with Ime. Ime was not a great game plan coach. His game plans weren't really amazing, right? He didn't need to be amazing, though, because what he brought to the Celtics, I think, it will stick with them. He brought the winning culture back into Boston. He brought that.
Right.
He brought that intensity, that hustle,
Excitement.
that grit, that excitement, that grind that you hadn't seen, even in the Brad Stevens era for sure, and probably dating back to 2010 with this team since that finals run with KG and P. That we're gonna grit and grind this out. We're going to play 48 minutes of hard knocks defense. We're going to be up in your face, and he unlocked that from this team. And I don't think this team is just going to sit there and pout and say, "Oh, well, Ime's not here. We're not." That's not what this team's about. They came 2 wins away from the finals. They have that sour taste in their mouth. They just added a lot of talent there. They got the best backcourt in the league, hands down, no question. I mean, these guys are a super talented team. If this Mazzulla guy, right, if he can manage personalities, I think he's a Brad Stevens guy, and I trust Brad Stevens. I mean, I have no reason to sit here and be concerned, and maybe you might call me being too optimistic, but I mean, Joe Mazzulla looks like a good guy. He looks like a guy that's fitting for the job. He's young for sure. He's been under Brad's system. He was there last year. He was there for the good times, there for the bad times. I think this is an opportunity for the Celtics players to unite.
Right.
And Tatum, you made a great point, Justin, for Tatum and Brown to really step up as leaders. And honestly, you know what? It's going to make a hell of a documentary if the Celtics can pull this together. So, we're back on the documentary train. I mean, I'm serious. It's like this team
yeah.
is so talented that they are, I think, at the point where the coach just needs to manage personalities and make sure they're playing good D. If they're playing good defense, they're going to be in every game this season.
Right. And, Joe, who was it? Mark D'Amico. He was hosting the media day today for the Celtics, and he had mentioned how, Joe Mazzulla has had a lot of coaching experience for how young he is. He was under Brad Stevens and he was under Coach Ime Udoka last year. Um, Coach Ime, I'm sure the coaches and the coaching staff, even before this incident, they were starting to put their game plans together for this upcoming season. Those game plans are still going to be there. The same style of play is going to be there. Joe Mazzulla has fully. Bobby Manning also reported this earlier today that they fully expect Joe Mazzulla to stay under the Ime Udoka's kind of coaching strategies, the playbook. So it's going to be the same sort of play style, but it's going to be a new voice, a new messenger, a new guy to, I guess, exceed those play styles or voice those play styles, and that's going to be Joe Mazzulla. And the players seem to have a lot of trust and a lot of love and honesty and compassion towards Joe Mazzulla. I remember Tatum went on this huge tangent of Joe Mazzulla when he was in the finals, and this was obviously way before Mazzulla took over as interim head coach. So, the relationships are already there for Joe Mazzulla and the players. They're going to get a week's worth of training camp here, and then they're going to get about a month of preseason or, a couple weeks of preseason under their belts. And, it's preseason, guys, but I still think
The
as
preseason is huge for us this year.
Right. And I think as a rebuilding, but at the same time contending team, preseason's huge. You got a new head coach. You still have new players. You have a couple open roster spots too. So be on the lookout for guys like Noah Vonleh, Justin Jackson, Denzel Valentine. Those guys, Cabangeli, maybe he works himself into a actual roster spot because Rob and Gallo are out. So this training camp and preseason is going to be huge for both the players and the coaching staff.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's just time. This team's just going to need a little time. It's going to suck the first 15 games of the season. I maybe not 15, but I mean, I do think this is a little bit of time that's going to take for this team to kind of just be like, accept it almost. It's tough because it kind of felt like literally less than a year. It was like 8 months ago. This team had finally bought into Udoka's system. They bought in and they were doing so well. So it sucks. We're kind of going back to the start, but we're not really fully restarting. It's not like we're bringing in a new guy. Zula's been here. He knows these guys. And I think that is the real difference here. I think that's why Brad put his trust in Mazzulla and didn't go for a new guy. Because if you're bringing in a whole new guy, that is relationships you have to build, and that is game plans you have to figure out. And, and the Celtics, as the players, are going to sit here and thinking, we just went to the finals last year, and we're back to plan A.
Correct.
At the beginning. And it's just kind of like, are you serious? So I like the decision to keep Mazzulla, to promote him. He's 34. So Horford's older than him. Braun's got some years on him. Like, this guy's young. But hopefully, if there's one thing Brad Stevens has been able to do, guys, hands down, no questions asked, it's find basketball minds, great basketball. I mean, Brad knows ball. I mean, he found Ime. He's brought in a great, talented team. He's developed his players fantastic. Like, this guy knows ball, plain and simple. He knows ball.
I think we could all agree. Yes, Brad may have handled this Udoka situation poorly, but other than that, he has been huge for this team and this team's turnaround from hiring the coaching staff, building this team. Yes, we know Danny Ainge drafted Tatum, Brown, Smart. We get that. But what Brad Stevens has been able to do and build this team into a championship caliber team and really kind of find a purpose for this team, I think that's tremendous. And he's going to do that again this year. I'd be interested to see, honestly, how these first 15 games go, Rob, because you mentioned, the Celtics might struggle, which they might for sure. But for some reason, for some reason, I feel like the Celtics are going to have a really, really good start to the season, almost a better one than what we expect. And that's not me saying it because I'm a Celtics fan. I'm just, for some reason, I'm really opportunistic in this team. I really think that this whole Udoka scandal situation, whatever you want to call it, I think the guys are going to want to prove a lot of people wrong, and I think they're going to want to prove themselves because, yes, they went to the finals last year. We know Tatum is an MVP caliber player. We know Jaylen Brown is a all-star caliber player, but they still have stuff to prove. They still have a lot to prove, especially coming off of it. You heard Jaylen Brown talking about it earlier today. You know, you're not always guaranteed a spot back just because you went before, right? Like the Celtics were in the finals last year. That doesn't mean that they're a lock to even get into the playoffs.
In a stacked Eastern Conference, too.
Correct. They know how hard it's going to take. And quite honestly, guys, it might sound easier as it sounds, but the Celtics aren't going to want to go 33. They're not going to want to have to go 33-8 in their last 40 games because to make the playoffs, because the Celtics were in the 11th spot. The Celtics, that wasn't even a playoff.
That won't
team.
fly this year. You can't
right,
do that.
and the Celtics aren't going to want to play from behind, especially that late into the season. I mean, what the Celtics did last year was a miracle. That was a miracle. They went from the 11th seed to at one point they were tied for the first seed. They're not going to want to do that this year. They're going to want to get off to a great start, and obviously not having Gallo and Rob, that sucks in the moment. But we're going to have to see guys step up. I mean, Grant Williams stepped up huge last year.
Grant should be starting now, right?
Right. Yeah, Grant should be starting. I mean, I'd imagine. I know this would probably be. I mean, we could even talk about starting lineups. That could be a whole podcast episode. But I'd imagine the starting lineup being a little something like, maybe Smart, Brown, Tatum, Grant, and Horford. Would Brogdon? Would the Celtics go really small and throw Brogdon there?
You got to keep Brogdon off the bench.
Right, but the Celtics are that deep, even without Robert Williams. The Celtics are that deep. We could form a bunch of different combinations that turn out to be phenomenal starting lineups, and that's what the Celtics have going for them.
I hate to get off topic, and you're right. We could talk about starting lineups all day, and we probably will next podcast episode because it'll be after training camp, right before the start of the regular the preseason.
Preseason, yeah.
I would start Derek White at the 2, and I would keep Grant. And
apparently Ian didn't like that.
Ian, if you're watching us visually, Ian just disappeared. But I would there he is. He's back. We thought we lost you there for a second, Ian.
I don't know what happened. My thing just shut off.
But I would definitely, if I was the head coach, thank God I'm not, but I'd start White at the 2, keep Grant as a backup 5. Run a little bit smaller, but that's a different conversation for a different day. But guys,
you know what though, Rob, nobody's talking about Derek White. Nobody's talking.
And that's
about Derek White.
He's a real talent. This guy's a starting a caliber player in this league.
Yeah,
he was huge for us down the stretch of the regular season. I get he struggled in the playoffs, but he was a huge acquisition made by Brad Stevens, and I think he's going to have a huge comeback year. Think of it. He's about to have his first full, off season. I mean, he's going to be able to go to training camp at Boston. He's going to be able to live in Boston, preseason in Boston. So he's going to have a lot of Boston experience under his belt for him this year. And I'm excited. Nobody talks about Derek White. Maybe we'll talk about him more next episode, but I'm excited for Derek White.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So I want to talk about Missoula a little bit. I think, all Celtics fans were very concerned about this because, first of all, most people, most regular, fans don't really keep track of the rest of the coaching staff. So when you hear Joe Mazzulla is going to be our new head coach, you think, okay, who is this guy? He's going to take over this team that just made the finals, and who knows if the players are actually going to respect him or not.
Right.
I mean, the fact that it felt like every single player, and even the new guys, like I remember I think the first interview I ended up watching was Malcolm Brogdon's, and Brogdon's interview was, probably the best interview of the day, honestly. The fact that he's already, connecting with Joe Mazzulla, before he was even going to be the head coach is something super important. The fact that Mazzulla has the trust of every single player on the team, it looks like, because every single question that they asked him, they always seem to trust Joe Mazzulla. They were talking about how much of a good game planner he is and how, he's able to set up he's so detail oriented that he's able to set up all the game plans against other teams. So, I mean, I'm excited to see what Joe Mazzulla can do. Like you said, he's only 34. He has experience under Ime Udoka and Brad Stevens. And I mean, like we've said already, he's just going to have to manage personalities, really. He's just going to have to,
for sure,
bring the team together, make sure they're all still buying into the system, and I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if we get off to a slow start next year, just because, this is a new coach and this is kind of like a new thing. But if they're just going to implement the same system,
it's a different person commanding it.
It's just a different person commanding it. So it's just going to be interesting to see. I mean, I know you guys are talking about how good of a start we could have. I'm personally thinking we're still going to have a little bit of a tough start, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as last year where we're bad till January.
I don't think that's possible. I mean, let's not even say that.
That's going to happen again, but
it
wouldn't surprise me if we get off to a little bit of a slow start just because of all the new stuff. But I still think this team, this team hasn't changed much. They've only added talent. So, this team should still be finals contenders, and they still should be title contenders because
I still think they're the favorites. I still think they're the favorites. I mean, mind you, Robert Williams, I think the Robert Williams news is way more concerning about the Udoka news. Having Udoka out for, I mean, that's bad, right? You figure that's just a drag.
Right.
What would really be bad is if we start to kind of if Mazzulla, God, now I'm gonna have to remember a whole. I learned Udoka, I got that down. Now I have to.
It's like a month to get Udoka.
Yeah, like, are you kidding me? Like, I just got Udoka down, but
like yesterday.
Mazzulla. I mean, this is a lot of pressure on him though, because he's 34 years old, coming into a championship or bust expectations, literally, like for real this season. It's a lot for him. We're gonna, we got time. Let this play out. Be patient, Celtics fans. It's gonna work out. But guys, before we close out, we got a little segment. Just to finish off each episode. Recently, we've been having a little fun with it. So I got something in store. We're gonna do a little start, bench, cut. I'm gonna give you 3 players. You know the drill. I'm gonna give you 3 players. You're gonna say start one, bench one, cut one. First one up: Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, or Zion Williamson.
As of right now, I guess I would probably start Luka, bench Tatum, and cut Zion, only because we haven't. And I'm high on Zion, but I still don't know if we've seen enough from Zion yet. So I'd probably say that. Also, this gives me PTSD of the pregame shows. By the way, Rob, just letting you know this segment.
Oh yeah.
So, did we do start bench cut?
I don't know. I know we did something similar to this, but it's giving me pregame show.
I think we've done a start bench cut. Oh God, don't even say pregame show. That gets me. All right, I'm starting Tatum. I'm cutting Zion, and I'm benching. I don't know why I said cut first, and I'm benching Luka. Although I'm tell you what, I would cut Luka if Zion's been healthy, because I think Tatum and Zion their play styles are much more winnable than Luka's. I kind of get James Harden vibes from Luka Doncic. I'm not gonna lie. He puts up the stats, the numbers are there. His usage rate is super high, and I don't know if you can win with that style of play.
I'm starting Luka, benching Tatum, and bringing Zion, cutting him. It's not about who starts the game; it's about who finishes the game. For me, I think Tatum comes in off the bench and finishes the game out.
All right, next one we got Drew Holiday, Marcus Smart, or Mikal Bridges.
I'm doing it in that order. I'm starting Drew, benching Marcus, and who was the third one? Bridges?
Mikal Bridges.
Yeah.
Mikal front. He's from the Suns, right?
Suns, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm benching him. Or no, I'm cutting him. So start Drew, bench.
You guys
Smart,
are crazy.
cut him.
I'm starting the Defensive Player of the Year, Marcus Smart. He's Defensive Player of the Year. That's the depoy. I'm benching Drew Holiday, and I'm cutting Mikal Bridges for sure. but that means Smart's depoy. I mean, that's you
Yeah,
can't
he
you
is.
can't disregard
That's why
that.
I need him in down the stretch.
Exactly.
I need
think
Drew to
he's coming
start.
off the
And
bench.
Drew's more of an all around player. I feel like Drew can really shoot the ball mid range, inside and out consistently.
I
I
think if Drew played with Tatum and Brown, he would average identical. He's a better shooter than Smart, more consistent. I think he'd average identical numbers as to Smart.
But I'm just looking. I'm being a realist here. I need Drew to start the game.
That's fair.
some
You know what? And
scoring.
I won't argue with starting Drew because I think it's very fair. I think you could absolutely start Drew Holiday. But me personally, give me the Defensive Player of the Year as my starter.
Yeah. I think I have to start Drew. Only because I feel like Drew is a better all-around player than Marcus right now. But Drew Holiday is getting older, so we're gonna have to see, what he does in the future. But right now, I guess I'm starting Holiday, benching Smart, and cutting Bridges.
All right, here we go. Third one. We got Zach LaVine, Jaylen Brown, and Bradley Beal.
Oh, I'm starting Jaylen Brown. I'm benching Zach LaVine, and I'm cutting Bradley Beal.
Absolutely. Same. Start Brown, start Brown, bench LaVine, cut Beal.
I feel like that's the only order I could imagine. If I'm being honest with you.
Yeah. Sure.
I'd go that.
All right, next one. This one's tough. It's Robert Williams, DeAndre Ayton, and Bam Adebayo.
Start Rob, bench Adebayo, cut Ayton.
I'm starting Bam, benching Rob, and I'm cutting. Who is it? Ayton. Yeah, Ayton.
Yeah.
And starters usually play more minutes typically. So Rob, need the rest of those legs up, so he's gonna come off the bench for me.
I'm gonna have to start Bam right now. I'm gonna have to bench Rob, and I'm cutting Ayton. I do think when the season's over, though, this order could be different. I think Rob and Ayton are gonna have 2 big years. Actually, maybe not. Ayton, he got his money. He might kind of sit back and coast. But
Ayton's probably gonna get traded. It wouldn't even shock me if he got traded by.
Yeah, but Bam's a little bit more. He's got a little bit better all around game. I think offensively he's kind of all over the super inconsistent, but Rob's definitely better on defense. But Bam, I just think has a more complete game than Rob, and so I think start Bam, bench Rob, cut Ayton for sure. All right, next one we got. What's up?
I mean, the only reason why I start Rob is, someone did own somebody.
That's not. You're not wrong.
It's finals last year. I'm just saying.
On one.
That's
night.
why Rob. That's why Rob will give as a I feel bad for you here. You could take my starting spot. Like I'm sorry.
Well, I also don't think I could really be like. I don't think I could go 4 for 4 with Celtics players on this one. I got to be semi-realistic, and I definitely other ones I truly believe. But Bam's better than Robert Williams right now. We got a battle of 6 mans up next. We got Jordan Clarkson, Jordan Poole, and Malcolm Brogdon. Start, bench, cut.
I really don't like most of the people. I don't know what it is. Something about Jordan Poole I just don't like.
Well, it's
but
probably
I do think
what he did to us.
It's not only because of the finals, though. There was something I didn't like about him before that.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what it is. I think he's just too inconsistent. But Jordan Clarkson is basically just the older version of Jordan Poole. So,
but I think Clarkson's a much more polished than Jordan Poole is. I think.
Oh no, for sure.
Super. But I mean, odds are a bunch of Celtics fans are going to cut Jordan Poole. Just playing.
For me, I would say start
I think I got to start Clarkson, bench Brogdon.
Brogdon plays. I'm starting Brogdon, benching Poole, cutting Clarkson. Brogdon plays both sides of the ball. I like that. He passes better than both of them. Equally, he's averages the same amount of points, if not more, than both of them. I think I'm taking Poole over Clarkson. He's younger, higher upside, I think. I think Poole's, and when it's all said and done, his career is going to be identical to Jordan Clarkson, I think. I think they're kind of the same player. But, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't think Poole's going to be that good. He was good. When he was hot, he was good. But when he's not, he's basically a liability on both ends of the court. So, I don't know. Maybe I think I'm still going to start Clarkson, only because in recent years Brogdon's been injury prone. So,
All right, last one. This isn't Celtics. This is last one. It's not Celtics. Start bench cut. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant.
Start Giannis, bench Curry, cut KD.
yeah,
Ooh.
that's pretty easy.
I'm starting.
I feel like that was easy. I feel like that was.
Yeah, I know that one.
I think you got to give me a harder one. Like
I'm starting Stephen Curry. I'm benching Kevin Durant,
you're not cutting Giannis,
and I'm
bro.
cutting Giannis.
No
Antetokounmpo.
way.
my.
Giannis
And
is the
hear me
best
out.
player in the
Hear me
league,
out.
bro.
Hear me out. This is gonna make no sense, but I believe Giannis is the best player in the league.
So you're
I
cutting
do.
him?
But I'm cutting him just because I think Kevin Durant and Steph Curry down the stretch, they're gonna win you they're gonna win you basketball games. And I think for me, right now, this season, Curry or KD, if I'm picking between the three of them and Giannis, I'm gonna take those two just because of what they know and what they can do. Do I think Giannis, talent-wise, is probably better, younger, and more athletic? For sure. Not for sure, but, yeah. But, right, I'm thinking about winning basketball games. I want Kevin Durant. If you give Kevin Durant the right squad, that man, people don't forget what he can do. But
All right, well, you're only going to get him for like 60 games a year, so.
that's true. That is true. But, and we almost beat all three of them. We came close. But that brings us to the end of this episode. Obviously, a lot happened with the Celtics. Like I said before, stay patient, Celtics fans. It's gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this. We're still gonna be a good basketball team. Let's hope. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for listening in. Make sure you go follow us.
Rob, you want to know a fact?
What's something? Let me hear it.
We've been through 3 head coaches since you and I have started doing this podcast.
This is our third head.
This is our third head coach, dude.
So this is your guys' fault.
This is our third head coach.
Yet we were 2 wins away from a championship. Yet we've had 3 head coaches.
It's been crazy. I mean, really, I assume there's going to be more news dropping on Ime. Maybe not this week. Honestly, maybe not this month. But at some point this season, I think there's going to be more news that drops. It would only make sense because with what we have now, the suspension doesn't make sense. But let's not get into it. Follow us on social medias, all of them. Road to 5,000. We're almost there. We appreciate you guys. All of our personals will also be in the description down below. So go show some love there. Guys, I'm Rob. Next to me is Justin. Below me is Ian. I nailed it this time. We enjoyed talking to you guys, and go Seas.